Okay? So again, this is um, isometric to multi-view. So we're moving away from lines and planes and moving into solids. No? Solids are again um, objects that have thickness and have volume rather than yung mga planes natin that only exist in 2D space. No? Okay? So ito, or kumbaga walang thickness kasi yung mga planes natin. Right? So, ito, we have this 3D object right here and it is shown in an isometric view. And what isometric means is that, as the name implies, no, iso is equal, metric is measure. So, ibig sabihin ng isometric is that you have equal measurements on all of the three axes na involved. So, the three axes involved is, you can imagine na parang meron tayong X, Y, Z, and X, Y, and Z axis dito, no? So, we can best show it through uh, a simple box, no? So if I create a box, kunwari ito, let me just create a box. And I'll say, let's do 50 by 50 by 50 ulit. Okay? So this is our simple box. And we can view this box in many orientations, no? So pwede natin siyang i-rotate around. And let me click the box. Pwede kong i-rotate around yung box, but there is a specific orientation wherein the box is shown in such a way na equal yung measurements niya in the front view, in the top view, and in the right side view. Okay, and this is the isometric view, no? And in AutoCAD, we can show this by doing this, no? Parang ganyan siya. Okay, so I'll show the hidden views, no? Parang mas malinaw siya, parang ganyan. So if this is your box, ito yung front side ng box, which is essentially yung FRP natin. Ito yung top view, which is our HRP. And this is the side view, which is our PRP. Okay? So, ito yung box natin. Ito yung orientation kung saan if we try to measure, kunwari, a distance from here to here, that distance would be the same distance if we were to measure from here to here. Parang ganyan. So, equal ang measurements nila. So, because of that equal measurement, we are allowed to copy distances along our isometric view. So, pwedeng directly magka-copy tayo ng distances and we copy it directly into our multi-view projection. Okay? So, the only caveat is that the equal measurements only applies when the measurements are made parallel to the primary axis, which is the X, Y, and Z. Okay? So, kumbaga, if this is your X, and let me have, this one is X, papunta dyan. This one is Y, papunta dyan. Ito naman dito, this is the Z direction. Bakit? Parang ganyan. So, ito yung X, Y, and Z natin. And dito. And let me just call it a different color, no? Ayan. So, ito mga yellow lines na to, these are my X, Y, and Z axis. So, as long as I measure distances that are parallel to X, Y, or Z, then I can make the assumption that they are equal measurements. So, kumbaga, yung equal yung units of measurement nila. So, walang foreshortening na mangyayari. And that's important because we want to copy distances directly from the isometric view papunta dito sa multi-view projection natin. So, kumbaga, ang gagawin natin is we unfold this box right here. And tulad ng imagination natin nung projections, nung tinuro ko yung projections, parang i-unfold natin tong box natin to produce three squares, no? Isang square sa taas, which is our HRP, isang square sa ilalim, which is the FRP, and one to the right, which is our PRP. Okay? So, yun yung gusto natin mangyari. Okay? So, the challenge now is when we have solids, ang gusto natin is we want to encase our solid inside a similar box na parang ganito, no? And this is what we call as the glass box. Okay? So, whenever we have a solid, gusto natin para makapag-measure tayo ng distances effectively, we want to enclose the object in the smallest glass box possible. Now, the choice of the glass box will be quite relevant, no? So, if we try to do, if we have different glass boxes. Kunwari, iba yung interpretation ng one student interprets the object in another way and another student has another interpretation. Ang mangyayari is, different yung mga glass box na mapuproduce nila. Both can produce the same, the equally correct answers, pero very different yung answers na mapuproduce nila. And that's why in ES1, usually, when you have an isometric view, posibleng may multiple interpretations of the same objects, no? And later siguro ipapakita ko some examples of mga optical illusions, pero the general rule is, at least for ES1, is the general rule is you want to produce objects that are kumbaga the simplest interpretation possible para hindi kayo mahirapan, hindi rin mahirapan yung checker na nag-check ng work nyo, no? Okay? So, yun yung parang general rule natin. Pero, kumbaga, if you can't imagine the simplest solution, pwede naman whatever is yung first thing na na-imagine nyo. Okay? Pero again, just know that hindi, there are certain problems na parang isa lang talaga yung posibleng interpretation, but there are other problems that can have multiple interpretations. And that boils down to the creation of the glass box, no? And in fact, during in previous semesters, yung a lot of the points or parang may konting points na binibigay sa pag-create ng glass box itself. So, some teachers give as high as, well, for example, 20 points para lang sa glass box. So, if you made the correct glass box, 20 points na agad yun. And the rest of the 80 points comes from creating the multi-view projection itself, no? So, that just shows you how important the glass box is, no? So, balik tayo. I'm just gonna delete this, no? And balik tayo dun sa problem natin. Tapos, ang gagawin natin ngayon is we want to enclose, the first goal natin dito is to enclose our object inside a glass box. Now, usually when you're given an isometric, meron tayong parang marker na pinapakita dito. And in our case, meron naman ako marker na niligay. Pero kung wala namang marker na nakalagay, we can always find etong origin natin. Kasi this is sort of our origin, no? So, this one is the x-axis. This one is the y-axis. And this vertical one is the z-axis. Para ganyan. Right? So, yan yung origin point natin. So, the way you determine kung nasaan yung axis na to is that the rule is when you're creating isometric drawing is that yung measurement of the x and y axis is 30 degrees from the horizontal. So, if you measure this one, this is 30 degrees from the horizontal. Okay? This one also is also 30 degrees from the horizontal. Okay? So, again, from here to here, that's 30 degrees. Here to here, that's also 30 degrees. Okay? So, meaning that if we try to make this isometric, tapos extend lang natin to where they meet, and if this is 30 degrees, they should always meet at the origin, no? So, ito, pag-meet lang natin, pag-meet siya doon sa origin natin. Like so. Okay? So, for this case, ang gagawin lang natin, hanapin lang natin yung parang furthest extent ng glass box natin. And yun yung gagamitin natin as, or furthest extent ng solid, and yun yung gagamitin natin as the boundary of our glass box. So, we won't make the glass box any larger than it should be. Kailangan hanggang kung ano lang yung extent ng solid. So, if you look at the left side, parang the farthest extent would be this one right here. So, it makes sense na pwedeng ito yung leftmost portion ng front view natin. And just to show you, I'll create a glass box. Gawa lang ako ng construction line, no? And I'll initially create, sorry, gawin ko lang ulit magenta to. Okay? I'll create my glass box. Ito, from here to here, hindi ako nag-change layer. Okay. I'll do 50%. Okay? From here to here, yan yung bottom side ng front view ko. Okay? Ito yung bottom edge ng front view. Okay? Now, I move upwards, like so. Ito yung left side. Hindi ko pa alam kung saan siya mag-end. So, I'll just move it upwards. So, yan yung left side ng, kumbaga, ng front view. Okay? Now, if I take this edge right here, ito kasi yung pinaka, if same tayo na imagination, ito yung pinaka-tuktok ng solid. Okay? Which means that ito yung topmost portion. So, if I draw a line from here and I made it such that it is parallel to this, and we should have a line here, no, that is 30 degrees. So, gawa lang kayo ng 30-degree line, like so. And it should be following this baseline right here as well, no? So, ito, if we created this line and made this parallel to this one, ganyan, where they meet, yan na yung upper left corner ng ating front view. Okay? So, I can trim this. Pwede natin i-trim siya. Ganyan. So, parang medyo na-define na natin yung parang extent ng glass box natin in this portion. Now, let's try to get the extent in this right side portion. So, if you look at the right side view, etong farthest point is this one. So, we could fairly assume na ito na yung farthest point. So, if we take a vertical line, moving upwards, that will be the right edge of our right side view or our PRP. Okay? And we do the same again from this point, make it parallel to this one. And where it meets the vertical line, yan yung upper right corner ng ating FRP or PRP, I'm sorry. Upper right corner ng right side view natin. Okay? So again, we're looking at it from here. This direction, ito yung this one is our front view. Moving here is our side view. Tapos from top to bottom, this is our top view. Okay? So, ititrim lang natin to para to clean it up. Now, to find the, kumbaga, kung nasaan yung upper right corner ng front view, which is also the upper left corner of the right side view, ang gagawin lang natin is we create a line that is parallel, a 30-degree line again, parallel here, papunta dyan, and this is the upper edge of our front view. And we also create the upper edge of our right side view, which is this one. And where they meet, yan na yung magiging corner of our glass box, no? So parang yung nearest corner facing us. Okay? That is the nearest corner of our glass box. Now, if you take a vertical line from our sort of z-axis natin and allow it to meet, that is now our glass box completed. Okay? So we can see that our glass box here, for this particular example, the glass box is just a perfect cube, no? Okay? It's measures. So if you try to measure, kunwari, if I measure this distance is the same as the distance of the height, which is also the same as the distance of the length niya, no? Or you can think of it as the depth, no? So if this is the width, this is the height, this is the depth or the length, all of them are the same, no? So equal sila. Okay? So this is a cube. So now we can copy distances onto our reference planes, no? So since wala akong binigay na reference plane dito, you can just create your own. Lagay lang ako ng final answer ng FH. I'll make this index 7, 0. Right? So gawa lang tayo ng vertical line to separate. Oops. I'll make this final answer. So let's create a vertical line that separates the HRP and FRP, and let's make a horizontal line that separates HRP and FRP, and let's make a vertical line that separates FRP and PRP. And enough pa yung space natin. Let's move this around, no? Move ko lang to somewhere dito siguro para kakasya siya, no? Yan. I'll just move it there. Or even better, baka dito. Okay? Yun yung ano ko. Alright? So, ang gagawin natin is, we'll copy the distance. So, ito kasi yung sort of height ng this distance right here. Ito yung height ng top view natin. Tama? So, if we copy this distance, so, this distance right here, copy natin siya, and I'll shift to the construction layer now. If I copy it, by the way, I should label my, before I do that, label ko muna yung HRP, FRP ko, no? So, let's do text. I'll do HRP sa taas, then FRP sa baba. And let's move this down. Tapos dito naman, let's do a vertical one. It's FRP to the left and PRP to the right. Okay. Parang ganyan. So we create something that looks like this. So ang gagawin natin is, let's first create the HRP, tapos tsaka natin gagawin yung PRP, FRP and PRP using the arbitrary na pinili nating boundary dito sa taas as the basis to project for projections. Okay? So, eto, we take this distance, and let's just minsan may nilalagay na marker points yung ano, no, problem. If you look at the PDF file that I've sent, meron na siyang marker points na binigay kung saan nyo i-drawing yung HRP, FRP, and PRP. Pero kung walang binigay, then you make your own, no? So, I can just start here. Kunwari, I'll just mark a point. I'll start here. Yan yung starting point ko, this one. Right? So, ang gagawin natin is, I'll just create a vertical line going up, and this is my height. Vertical line going to the left. Height in terms of if you're looking at it from the top, you know. Pero, sige, para consistent yung ano natin terminologies, I'll call this any distance along the Z as a height, any distance along the X as a length, any distance along the Y as a width. Okay? So, yun yung terminology natin. So, essentially, this is a width, no? So, this is the width. This is the length. Okay? So, ito yung length at width natin. Kokopyahin lang natin yung distance, and it's the same distance, so pwede natin siya i-copy lang. Well, let's move this circle right here. And if I trim this, yan na yung length and width ko. And now, I can complete it by just creating two lines like this. One horizontal and one vertical. And this is now my glass box as seen in the HRP. Okay? And let me just move this around. Galawin ko lang yung para hindi siya masyadong nakaka-interfere. Parang ganyan. Okay? Now, ang gagawin natin is from here, ipo-project natin si ends ng glass box natin dito. Project lang natin siya pababa. And we have something that looks like this. Okay? Now, again, arbitrary yung magiging distance niya from the reference point. Pero, it's always good practice to make it equal lang yung distance niya, no? So, I just create a circle from here para pwedeng copy ko na yung distance na to. Okay? So, this one, it makes sense na this is the same length, no? Pero again, we've already noted na equal lang naman ang lengths ng lahat ng edges na to. So, we can just create a circle. Equal kasi yung length, width, and height niya. So, this is now the height. And if we trim this down, we have created our front view. Okay? Parang ganyan. Okay? Now, ang gagawin natin is, i-project natin siya papunta sa right side view. This one. Let's make it. And the basis for distances here is supposed to be this one, no? Tama? Kasi 2 views away. So, 1, 2. So, this distance right here, if I copy that, dapat yan yung distance away from the marker. Okay? So, parang ganyan. Okay? And again, for here, ang distance of the length of the glass box is this distance right here, which we've noted is equal lang naman in all directions. So ito siya. So, later on, I'll give you an example wherein hindi equal lahat ng sides, no? So, yon we'll be doing some ano pa no, para manipulation pa of our glass box. Okay? So we have our glass box that looks like this. Ito na siya. Tapos ang gagawin natin is we want to copy the features na nakikita natin onto the glass box. And if you want, you can also trim this down no, para mas malinis. So nandyan na yung glass box natin. I'll just move this further down. Okay? Okay? So, ang gagawin natin is, the first thing you need to do is, the easiest way to approach drawing objects onto the glass box is that we want to determine kung ano yung objects na nakadikit sa glass box natin. Okay? So, if you think about it, ito, let's try to complete the top view first. If you think about it, yung pinaka feature na or face um, that is aligned with the ceiling of the glass box, so as to speak, no? Ito is this feature right here, which is just a square, no? Ito siya. This one right here. Tama? Siya yung parang nakadikit siya sa glass box. If same yung imagination natin, no? Nakadikit siya sa glass box. So it's a good starting point for you to draw, no? So, if you imagine this glass box right here, or sorry, if you imagine this parang plane right here, ang gagawin natin is we copy distances. So, let's copy the distance of this one, which is this distance. So, alam natin na from this corner right here is this corner, no? And para hindi kayo malito, since this is the first time you're seeing the objects, no? Let's try to label the points, no? Para alam nyo exactly what I'm talking about. So, let's label this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yan. And I'll label this as 5. I just label everything, no? Pero usually when you're doing isometric to multiview, hindi nyo kailangan i-label, no? Sometimes, for more complicated tasks, there is a merit to labeling kasi it makes your approach very methodical, no? And you can just draw everything plain, line by line, plane by plane. But again, it can slow down your workflow, no? So I don't recommend that you always label. Pero for this case, since I'm still introducing the topic, okay lang na i-label ko muna lahat. Okay? So I'm just labeling everything. So I have 14 points in total. Tapos I'll just label a few extra points. Itong mga corners ng glass box para alam nyo kung ano yung tinutukoy ko, no? So I'll label this as X kunwari. Or sorry, A na lang. A. This is B. This is C. Or paikot na lang. Okay lang. C. A, B. Sige, para di nakakalito. I'll make this as B. And this one is C. And si last corner, which is supposed to be, corner D, is also coincidental with corner 1. So, hindi ko na i-label siya. So, A, B, C, 1 yung parang top view ng glass box. Now, let's label the bottom one. This is already 9. So, pwedeng i-continue ko na lang nandito si D kasi wala pang label to. And 14 is already labeled. So, 9D, 14, and the one at the back, di na natin kita, pero yun yung parang the farthest corner of our glass box. Okay? Okay? So, para mas madali, pag nagre-reference ako ng different planes and points, I'll just refer to the points here listed. Pero again, there is no need for you to do this. Hindi nyo kailangan i-label yung mga points na to. Okay? So, ang gagawin natin is, again, let's try to find 1, 2, 3, 4. Ito si 1, 2, 3, 4, kung how it looks like in the glass box. Now, this corner right here, itong corner ng HRP natin, this is the corner 1, A, B, C. Okay? Okay? So, ito siya. This is corner 1A, B, C. 1A, B, C. Okay? So, ganyan siya. So, ganyan yung orientation niya. Okay? So, that's how the sort of glass box unfolds onto the multi-view projection. Okay? So, 1A, B, C. So, a lot of students, yung common mistake is na-rotate nila. Tama yung drawing pero naka-rotate lang ng mali, no? Kumbaga, minsan instead of 1 ABC ganyan, nandito si 1, dito si A, nandito si B, nandito si C. Para ganun. Nagkamali lang ng rotations, no? Kasi iniisip nila na this is the top left corner, si A, top left, tapos bottom right corner si C. So minsan naka-rotate lang ng 90 degrees, no? Okay? So always remember that etong farthest corner na to, or sorry, etong top corner na to, if you're looking at the isometric, this is always the top left corner of the HRP. Okay? So siya yung nandito sa top left corner dito. Okay? Right. So, ang gagawin natin, let's find this one. So, let's measure the distance like this. Tapos, ilalagay natin siya dito because we know na ito yung distance of this edge and this edge. So, ang gagawin natin is, pwede tayo mag-create ng parallel line like this and another parallel line like this. Right? So, why can we create these parallel lines? Because we can create these parallel lines because yung rules for parallelism also applies here, no? Di ba, parallel lines always appear parallel in any view. So, whether that's an isometric view or a multi-view, they will always appear parallel. So, ito, this is parallel to this one. So, kaya pwede ko siyang i-create like that. Pero pwede rin naman, you can also measure, no? Kunwari ito, I can measure this distance from this distance, so 4 to 3, I can measure it because it is along or parallel to the x direction. Again, okay lang mag-measure ng distances as long as it is parallel to the primary axis, which is x, y, and z. If it's not parallel to the primary axis, then hindi posible na i-measure nyo siya kasi there will be some foreshortening na mangyayari, no? Si x, y, and z lang yung walang foreshortening na nangyayari. Sila yung, kumbaga, nag-a-apply yung isometric na definition na sinabi natin kanina. Okay? So, this is now the first glass box. Now, ito, again, di ba, ang sabi natin is, yung projection is perpendicular to the reference plane. Yun yung magiging projection natin. So, one thing that you can do is, this is a technique I like to do. I like to imagine na parang nagpo-push and pull ako ng mga points, no? Or nagpo-pull ako ng points papunta sa reference plane. So, if I imagine na this plane right here, the second plane that should be visible is this plane right here. Tama? Ito. If you imagine itong polyline na to, this polyline right here should be visible dito. So, how do you push and pull this plane? Kasi, what you're doing is parang pinoproject mo siya papunta dun sa HRP kasi. So, it's like saying na itong point na to, ipupull ko pataas. So, nandyan siya. Itong point na to, ipupull ko din pataas. Like this. Hanggang ma-meet niya yung reference plane. This one, I'll pull also pataas. And this one is, I'll pull it also pataas. So, what I end up having is, it's just also a square that is viewed dun sa HRP. Okay? So, yun yung distances niya. So, because of that, now I can create that second box dito. Pero since I already have this convenient lines na already existing, actually, if I just connect this line with this one, and let's use a different color. If I just connect this one, this box right here now represents the plane 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So, ito na siya. 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Yun yung ano natin. Right? So, entirely ito, parang aakyat lang siya. And yun yung makikita nyo doon sa top plane. Now, the last feature na kailangan natin makita is actually this one. This inclined plane right here. And later, ituturo ko sa inyo anong meaning ng inclined. There are specific definitions for yung mga inclined planes, yung normal planes, and yung oblique planes. Yun yung 3 types of planes natin. Later, i-describe ko yun. Now, this one, how do we view this inclined plane? We do the technique again. Parang mag-imagine lang tayo. Ako personally, this is my personal method of determining, especially if it's a complex object. I just imagine na parang my plane. So, this is my plane, no? I'll isolate my plane. So, this is 3, 4, 14, and 12. 3, 4, 14, and 12. Tapos, in-imagine ko na ipupull ko yung point. So, I'm pulling this point pataas. Like so. I'm also pulling this point pataas. in a perpendicular manner papunta dun sa reference plane ko. And what I end up having is parang square lang din siya. It looks like a square dun sa taas. Okay? So, ayan yung projection niya. So, essentially, if I connect this one and this one, if I connect this and this, that will be my reference plane. Now, to finalize my answer, I just need to look at, meron bang existing lines dito? You can see na parang hollow sila, no? Parang wala namang nag-exist na parang object dito, hollow siya. So, wala talagang space dito. So, you can leave your glass box if you want. Pwede naman i-leave nyo yung glass box and punta na lang kayo sa final answer layer nyo. Tapos, drawing kayo ng final answer nyo, which is this one. Pwede ganyan, no? Drawing nyo like so. Or if you want, pwede rin, i-trim nyo na lang to. Trim nyo siya. Tapos, ilipat na lang sa final answer yung ano. Pero I suggest na leaving the glass box behind. Tapos, i-finalize nyo by creating another line that is of a different color yung final answer. Okay? Right? So, that is for the top view. Now, let's look at the side view. Again, ang tip ko always is to always look for the feature or plane that is attached to your glass box. So, kumbaga, yung nakadikit sa glass box mismo. Ang nakadikit sa glass box dito is actually this plane, no? Itong si 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. Nakadikit siya sa glass box. So, yun yung una natin i-drawing. So, if I measure this distance right here, yan yung distance ng glass box ko. And pwede ko siguro i-diretso final answer na siya, no? Because I'm confident na ito, litaw naman to. Diretso final answer ko na siya. If you want, you can also create a use REC instead of creating a line. Instead of creating multiple lines, no? To finalize your answer. So, you have something that looks like this. Okay? Now, next natin hanapin is wala tayong ibang feature na litaw kundi itong plane na to. This parang ano ba tawag dito? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This 6-sided na shape right here, no? Itong polygon na to. So again, same imagination as before. Ang gagawin lang natin is i-sort of push and pull natin yung mga lines natin or points natin papunta dun sa. So what we imagine is ito, I'm pulling this towards the frontal reference plane, FRP. Ito, pull ko din papunta. Pull ko din to papunta dyan. This one, pulling it. So, isa-isa ko po, Pero essentially, parang pinupull ko siya papunta doon sa front reference plane ko. And you'll end up having something that looks like this. Parang lahat ng points, if you pull it, move it towards the front reference plane, then you have this shape, and yun yung makikita mo dapat dito. Okay? Now, you can do that, or you can also just mark certain points of reference, no? So, sometimes kasi, if you know the location of certain points, parang all other points will sort of, parang nagko-connect the dots lang kayo, no? So, if you know, kunwari, in this particular case, ito yung pinaka-importante. Kasi if you know this point right here, itong corner na to, maraming points na nagko-connect sa kanya, or at least ito, magko-connect siya papunta dyan, at ito, magko-connect papunta dyan. And essentially, parang medyo buo na yung shape nyo. So, hanapin na lang natin itong point na to. So, this point right here is located at this point, and you can create a parallel line ito para alam nyo kung nasaan siya exactly doon sa ating front reference plane. So this is how you project it using a parallel line to this. So papunta siya dyan. Tapos if you measure ito, that is now the location of that point. So nandito yung point na yon. Okay? So now that you have this point, and this is actually point 3, no? Now that you have point 3, pwede mo na siyang i-connect papunta dyan. And this one, papunta dito. Okay? Another way of doing it, again, this is like pushing and pulling points, no? Another way of doing it is to use what you've learned in projections, no? Kasi alam mo nyo, si point 3 is this point right here. This is point 3. So meaning, point 3 should be located somewhere along this line. Tama? And you also know that point 3 is located at the very top. Nakadikit siya sa HRP. So meaning, this projection line, where it intersects the top plane, nandun si point 3. So nandito din si point 3. Yan. So you can find point 3 right here. Okay? So, many ways to maraming ways para mahanap yung mga certain lines, certain directions. And it depends on you guys kung ano yung fastest way of doing it. For me, it's a combination of yung pushing and pulling of points, combination of imagining the object, and using yung mga projection lines to find certain points of interest. Okay? So, itong point 3 na to, I found it. Pwede ko na i-connect siya. This one, and I can also connect all the other lines. To. And I finished creating this plane right here. Yung parang six-sided irregular shape natin. Right? Tapos dito, itong parts na to, parang butas siya, no? Wala naman dapat nakikita if you're looking at it from the front view. So, wala to. Hindi ko na siya i-delete, no? More of i-retain ko na lang. And I'll just change these lines right here. To. Into the final answer by layer. Okay? By layer. Okay? So this is what the final answer should look like. Delete ko lang. Okay? Parang ganyan. Now, looking at it from the front view, parang same as before. Let's just do an imagination. Ito. If you get good at it, pwedeng hindi nyo na siya i-imagine, hindi nyo kailangan i-imagine siya, no? Parang alam nyo na agad na this one, if you pull it papunta, it will look like a vertical na rectangle, no? Okay? Or a tall rectangle. Papunta dito sa front view. Ano, may nagsasalita ba? Wala naman. Parang ganyan. So, this tall rectangle right here. So, from the side view, gagawin natin is we can measure this distance. This one. And I know that it spans the entire height. So, diretso ko lang siya ng ganyan. So, I've created si triangle 3 or si plane 3, 4, 12, 3, 4, 14, 12. Okay? Now, complete ko na lang siya like so. Oh. Pwede ko i-drawing siya ng ganyan. Kasi ito, gagawin natin na final answer. Okay? Now, ang last element na makikita is actually ito, no? And if you try to push and pull points, ito, or pull points towards the FRP, ang makikita nyo is just the square, no? Itong si 7, 6, 11, 10. Si plane 7, 6, 11, 10 should be seen here. Okay? Ganyan. And gawin natin by layer. Okay? So this is what the final answer should look like in the PRP. And that is the completed multi-view projection of this object right here. And this is using 2D methods, no? Later on, ipapakita ko sa inyo yung 3D methods, but that's for solids number 2 na. Doon natin i-discuss kung paano siya ginagawa, no? So, for solids 2. For solids 1, puro manual methods. Hindi na tayo manual. By manual, I'm saying na 2D CAD yung ginagamit. Pero once na nag-3D CAD na tayo, we can automatically generate this multi-view projection simply by creating the model first, then making the multi-view projection. Okay? So, I think okay na tayo. Nandiyan na yung final answer natin. Now here, ito, let's move this to the bottom. Let's just try to identify kung ano yung mga planes available dito. So let's group them according to yung type niya. So there are three types of plane. We have the normal plane. We have the ano tawag dito? We have the inclined, and we have the obliques or oblique plane. Okay? So these are unique planes, and this will help you parang ano no whenever you can identify kung ano yung types of planes na napoproduce, mas madali nyo siyang mabubuo kasi these planes will serve as sort of anchors no for you to create the other planes as well. Usually the first thing that we want to find is the normal planes kasi normal planes are oriented in such a way that they are parallel to a primary reference plane. So either one of the HRP, FRP, or PRP. So the way you know that it's a normal plane if you have two edge views. So usually ito yung test na pwede niyo gawin, no? If your plane produces two edge views in either of the primary reference plane, HRP, FRP, and PRP, then you know it's a normal plane. Okay? If it produces just one edge view, kung isa lang yung edge view na napoproduce niya, then that is an inclined plane, no? An inclined plane is a plane wherein it is perpendicular to a primary reference plane. Okay? So that is what we call as an inclined plane. And usually, edge view siya doon sa it appears as an edge view doon sa plane kung saan siya perpendicular, or doon sa reference plane kung saan siya perpendicular. Okay? That being said, si normal plane, if it is parallel to a primary reference plane, it also goes without saying that it is perpendicular to the two other remaining reference planes. Okay? So kung parallel siya sa HRP kunwari, ibig sabihin perpendicular siya doon sa FRP and sa PRP. Okay? And lastly, si oblique, sila yung may zero edge views, no? So yung oblique planes are planes that have no particular relationships with any of the primary reference planes. So usually what we want to do is si oblique planes, yun yung last natin na gustong hanapin. Now, let's just try to identify sino yung mga planes dito ang normals. Tingin nyo, alin yung mga normal planes? Plane B is a normal. Tama? Ano pa? A is normal. C is also normal. Meron pang isa. D is normal, no? Okay? I think that's the... Tama. Ito na yung four normal planes. So, incline naman. Sino yung mga incline dito? Is E an inclined plane? Saan siya perpendicular? E is an inclined plane that is perpendicular to the top view or the HRP. Tama? So, kumbaga doon siya magiging edge view dapat si E. It looks like an edge view doon sa top view. So, it has one edge view. Tama? And let's just move back na kunwari, si A, we said that it's normal. Dapat expected natin is dalawang edge view siya. So, it looks like an edge view dapat sa front view and sa right side view. Tama? If you look at FRP, naka-edge view si A. If you look at PRP, naka-edge view din si A. Okay? Something like B, kunwari, B looks like an edge view from the HRP, and it also looks like an edge view from the PRP. So on and so forth. So inclined, only one edge view lang siya. This one should look like one edge view sa taas, sa HRP, and it should appear in the front view, and it also appears in the right side view. Okay? So, pwede din yun, no? Pwedeng isang way to determine if it is normal, inclined, or to confirm if it's normal, or inclined, or oblique is the number of views that it appears as a non-edge view. So, pagka normal siya, you have one non-EV views. Pagka inclined, you have two non-EV. And pagka oblique, you should have three non-edge view na views. So, kumbaga, makikita mo yung oblique plane in all of the three views. Okay? Si incline naman, dalawang views mo siya makikita. Okay? Whereas in normal, isa lang. Okay? So, si inclined, if you look at inclined, E is inclined, would you say F is inclined? F by inclined or oblique? Tingin nyo. It's a little tricky, no? Pero, it should be inclined. Inclined dapat siya. So, it's inclined because it appears as, ano no, an edge view sa front reference plane. Pero, kita siya sa right side view, kita rin siya dun sa top view. Okay? So, for now, baka, medyo confusing pa siya, no? But if you do this long enough, parang, again, what I imagine is, in my head, parang meron akong, ini-imagine ko, kunwari, ito si plane F, nakaganyan siya. I'm imagining na, if I were to, PL. Ganito ko siya ini-imagine, no? I'm imagining na si PL, pagka minove ko siya papunta sa right, it will look like this. Papunta dyan. If I move this to the right, papunta din dyan. To the left pala, to the front view. And if I move this to the left, papunta dyan. It will actually look like an edge view. Parang ganun. If I try to imagine moving the points papunta dun sa view that it is involved, it will look like an edge view. Ganun yung nakikita ko sa utak ko, no? Similarly, if I move this upwards, parang ganyan, will move upward by some amount. Ito, I'm just estimating the amount. Ito naman, it will move upward by some amount din. And it will look like this, no? Parang mag-move sila pataas. And in my head, parang actually, parang dalawang points yung nag-move simultaneously, no? Hindi ko siya mapakita ngayon. But anyway, parang siyang dalawang points na umaakyat at the same time. Tapos pag nag-move to the right naman siya, para siyang nag-move papunta dito. Parang yung imagination ko is nag-move siya papunta dyan. Ito naman, nag-move papunta dyan. And it should appear as if it's a trapezoid, no? Parang ganun yung nakikita ko. Again, I'm just estimating here, no? Kung ano yung movement niya. Pero that is how I view it. Okay? So, that's why in my head, parang nakikita ko agad na itong si F is an inclined plane that is shown as an edge view sa front reference plane. And lastly, yung last natin na plane is plane G, which is an oblique plane, no? Because plane G will appear as a plane in all views. And let's see it in action, no? Para lang for imagination's sake. If I draw this plane, and I mark it with cyan, eto, pag tinignan mo sa right side view, parang ganito siya. Let's move it. Para mangyari is, ganyan siya. Tama? So, mukha siyang triangle sa right side view. Sa front view, I mean. Pagka pinull up mo rin siya, ito, if you pull it up, pag ganyan, mukha din siyang triangle sa taas. And if you pull it to the right or sa profile reference plane, mukha din siya triangle siya. So, parang gano'n, no? You can imagine just pulling the points, no? Okay? Right? So, that's how you identify oblique, yung different types of planes. Again, the best tip I can give you, class, is to always find the normals first. If you can find the normal, kayang-kaya nyo nang ma-connect the dots to find the other planes. Ang last dapat na hinahanap nyo is the oblique plane. Oblique plane, parang walang sense na or hindi naman walang sense, pero para pinapahirapan nyo lang sarili nyo kung unahin nyo siya. Kasi yung obliques can be defined by the points that make it up, no? So pwedeng, if you can find, kunwari ito, if I can find this point and I can find this point, tapos mahanap ko rin yung point na to by doing the normals first, then pwede connect the dots ko na lang. And it will naturally find itself, no? Okay? Always find the normals first. So, try natin to. Let's do this one. Tapos ang gawin natin is, first, let's do the glass box muna, no? So, this one is a case wherein the glass box is not actually it's not, hindi siya a perfect cube. So let's just first draw a horizontal line just to confirm na ano no, kasi sometimes it can be minsan may mga ano no, I remember one plate or one exam wherein mukhang 30 degrees etong line. So students assumed na 30 degrees etong edge na to, and edge na to 30 degrees siya with the horizontal. But turns out hindi pala siya 30 degrees. So kumbaga slightly ano siya at an angle. So ang lalabas is hindi siya perfectly aligned doon sa glass box. So maraming students nagkamali doon, no. Kumbaga no, pero I feel like masama lang yung teacher noon, parang yung checker no, yung gumawa ng problem, no. Parang slightly off lang siya, like if I remember the problem correctly, para siyang ganito, no. Slightly ganyan lang siya. Ganyan. So you would think na pagka at a glance mukha siya 30 degrees. So inassume na ng students agad na ito yung edge ng glass box. Yun pala, yung edge ng glass box is pagka gumawa ka ng 30 degrees, nandito. So, ganyan yung gap. So, maraming, as in, sobrang daming nagkamali dahil sa problem. Akala din ng iba na baka misprint lang, gano'n, nag-warp lang during printing. So, inassume ng students na nag-warp lang siguro. So, inassume nila na ito pa rin yung 30-degree line. So, always check when you're doing problems, isometric problems, always check first. Measure nyo lang, MEA siguro. This is 30. This is also 30. So, pwedeng yun na yung glass box natin. Okay? So, this is the bottom of our glass box. This one. Ito rin yung bottom ng glass box. So, ito na din yung furthest point. So, pwedeng yun na yung gagamitin natin. Ang kulang na lang natin actually is itong area na to, no? Kung paano natin ma-define. Nasaan yung, kumbaga, edges ng glass box na yun. Dito, well-defined na rin siya. This can be one edge of the glass box. This is another edge of the glass box. So, ang gagawin na lang natin is, we create a line that is parallel to this one. This is the 30-degree line, di ba? Or pwede rin naman i-type nyo 30 para ma-ensure na 30 degrees talaga siya. Like so. Ito din. Create tayo ng 30-degree line. Pwede natin i-type 30 degrees or you can use the parallel plane technique. From there. Kasi ito naman, this is the rightmost edge of our PRP. Therefore, we can move it upwards like so. Where it meets, yan na yung corner ng glass box natin. Okay? Now, let's do a line moving towards this one. Let's do a parallel line to this. Punta dyan. And now, where it meets, yan na yung corner, yung front corner ng glass box. And if you did it correctly, dapat if we move this upwards, it should meet that same corner. Okay? So, mag-meet siya like so. So, that's how our glass box should look like. And this time, it's a little bit different, no? Yung glass box natin, hindi siya perfect cube. Our glass box is a sort of, rectangular prism siya. Okay? It is wider, yung largest dimension niya is in the y direction, no? So again, we assume that this is, we imagine na x to, y to, and z going upwards. Okay? Yung, ito? Aling line? Dito? 30 degrees. Parang ganun lang. Kasi pagka, kunwari, nag-drawing kayo ng line, automatically kasi it's measuring from the horizontal. So, pag tinype nyo lang 30, makukuha nyo ng yung ano. Pero kung ayaw nyo mag-type ng 30 degrees, then you just make a parallel line to this one. Parang ganyan. Pwede naman ganun. Parallel. Pero again, that is because I've already established na 30 degree itong nasa baba, no? So, without establishing that, hindi ko pwedeng basta-basta lang na mag-create ng parallel or parallel line. Okay? So, this is my glass box. Lipat ko na siya. First of all, gagawa muna ako ng HRP, FRP. Pero, if it's not given, no? Pero most of the time, given naman kung nasaan si HRP and FRP. Pero since, in our case, hindi naman given si HRP and PRP, let's make our own. I'll just change layers. Wait lang ako. One horizontal and one vertical. And probably I need to move this. Or gagawin ko is move ko lang yung given ko pataas, no? Using the move command para may space ako. Okay? Now, ang gagawin natin is mukhang pang bukas na to, no? Hindi, kukontinue ko na lang. If you have to go somewhere, you can go somewhere, no? Pero ang gagawin ko is I'll continue the lesson. Mag-extend ako konti. But again, those in Google Meet, pwede kayong umalis. Yung mga nandito, pwede naman kayong mag-dismiss na mga gano. Continue ko lang for the recording. Tapos i-review na lang yung recording, no? For ano, para matapos lang natin tong lesson on multi-view projections from isometric drawing. Okay? So ito, let's try to draw the glass box here. Again, di ko na i-label yung HRP, FRP. Basta may line dyan. Alam nyo naman na HRP to, FRP to, and PRP to. We can just label it afterwards. So. Okay? So, next is, let's draw a, gagawa muna tayo ng ano. Let's just draw an arbitrary marker. So, I'll just place an arbitrary projection line dito. Or sorry. First, let's draw a marker. I'll just mark it somewhere here. Diyan ko gustong ilagay. Again, this is just arbitrary. Pero sometimes the marker is already given, no? So ito, I'll create a line from that marker and measure lang ako ng distance. This is the distance of the length. Copy ko yung length na yon, like so. Tapos move to the right. And now I can copy the width. The width is this distance. Oh, I can measure this one. Or sorry, I should have measured from here, no? Yan, and I can trim it down. And now, pwede ko nang complete siya, no? Create a point there, and create a line, I'm sorry. And we can create. And same as before, ang gagawin ko is, I'll just make this one same distance away from the, ano, no? Okay? So, the width should be the same, or, the width should be the same. So, I can copy this, or what you can do is, you can just copy the line itself, no? Use this as the base point. Copy ko papunta dyan. And, eto naman, I can move down. And the distance here would be the height. This is the height, no? And I didn't check. Same lang ba yung... Okay, ang height and width... height and length are the same. In this particular case, the height and length are the same, pero ang different is the width. Okay? So, ito, it's this distance away, and now I can move ito dyan, trim it, like so. Okay? Now, I can make a projection line here. Again, because this should still follow the rules for projection. Dapat ang basis for distances dito sa PRP should be 2 views away, which is sa HRP. I can measure this distance. Ito siya. Okay. Right? And the height, the length pala, sorry, is this one. So I can copy this length. Ito siya. So this is the length. And trim it around. Oh, sorry. Let's trim. Para lang mas malinis, I'll just trim everything. Yan. Malinis na yung gawa ko. Now, let's do normals first. So, pwede ang gawin natin is, let's find the normals. Let's do HRP first. Find the normal. The normal is, eto nasa taas, no? And I'll just label this as, lagay ko lang dito, para lang mas, malinaw. I'll just say normal 1 to, si normal 1. Okay? So, si normal 1 is this distance. Tapos alam ko na it's ganitong distance away siya. So, I can measure from here. So, I can mark this point. Parang ganyan. Tapos, alam ko din na if from this point right here, ganitong distance away siya. And again, I can measure these types of things now because I know that it is parallel to the primary reference planes. Okay? Oh, sorry. Primary axis is parallel to the primary axis. So, I can measure these, no? Ito, measure ko siya. And now, I can create a line papunta dito. Okay? And, pwede ko lang i-connect from this point papunta dito sa corner na to because in this normal, this one is connected to this one. Now, ano yung hindi ko pwedeng gawin? I can't measure this line. Hindi ko pwedeng i-measure yung line na to, no? Because this line from this point to this point, hindi kasi siya parallel to any primary axis. So, hindi siya parallel sa X, hindi siya parallel sa Y, hindi siya parallel sa Z. That's why, if you try to do this, itong line na to, no? And try to measure it with the line here, sobrang iba sila. Iba yung distance. Tama? So again, ang only same distances na pwede mo i-measure are distances that are along the X, Y, or Z. Any other distance, wag nyong i-attempt na i-measure, no? I'll show you a problem next meeting siguro. Tama ba? Anong next meeting natin? Multiview to isometric pa pala tayo. Bukas, I'll show you some difficult problems bukas, no? Solve natin sila. Tapos, papakita ko kung saan may isang problem doon in particular na mistakenly nag-measure ako ng distance that are that are not supposed to be measured and nagkamali yung sagot ko. Okay? Pero ipapakita ko 'yun, no. So anyway, ito. Tapos ito, I'm imagining na I'm just pulling this point pataas. Ito, I'm pulling this point pataas and it should look like a rectangle, no? So I should just be able to connect it like so. And ito naman, this oblique right here, I know it's already an oblique, no? Tama? Kasi it's an oblique because if you imagine it, I'm just showing my imagination here. Ito siya. Oh, sorry. This plane right here. It's an oblique because I can see it sa taas. It should look like this. I can also see it to the front view. Should look like something like this, no? Ganyan yung itsura niya. Sa front view. And dun sa right side view, sa right side view, it should look something like ganyan. Ganyan. In all three views, kita siya as an oblique. Okay? So, which means that, ay, pali pala yung sabi ko. Dapat ganito, tapos papunta to dito, no? Parang ganyan. Ganyan yung itsura sa, front view niya. Okay? Pero later on, makikita naman natin yon. So, I'm just saying na, in my head, yun yung na-imagine ko sa kanya na orientation, no? So, that's what I know that this is an oblique. So, I'll just say oblique. Oh, and I think this is the only oblique, so hindi na natin need na number. I'll just say this is oblique plane O. Okay? So, si oblique plane O is this one. Dito na siya. And with that, I think complete na, no? And all of the lines involved are part of the final answer. So, pwede ko i-select siguro lahat to and just change it all into the final answer, no? And we can remove the nodes na ginawa natin or points na ginawa natin. This is what the top view should look like. Okay? Now, let's look at the bottom view. The front view. Sa front view, ang makikita ko, the first normal na nakikita ko is this one. Now, it's along this edge and this edge. Ito yung two edges na yon. Ang kulang ko na lang is actually this point. If I can find this point, I will be able to define this line. Again, don't try to measure this line. Kasi it's not along the primary axis. Hindi natin siya pwedeng i-measure. So, ang gagawin natin is, what we can measure is this one. Measure natin yan. And we measure it from the bottom. And we can connect this and this. And that should provide us with this normal right here. And let's call it normal 2. By the way, this is an incline, no? Tama? So, let's call it inclined I. So, we have this normal 2 right here. Tama? Ang next natin is now the location of this incline. Again, many ways to do this, but perhaps the fastest way is draw lang ako ng parallel line parallel to this one. So, I'm sort of extending the line papunta dyan. Where it meets, kung ano yung distance na to, that is actually the distance of this point right here. Okay? So, lagay ko siya dyan. This distance. You can copy this distance or pwede naman ang copy nyo na distance is this short distance, no? Pwede yan, pero you're measuring it from here. Okay? And let's just mark it with a point for now. So, nandyan siya. Okay? Now, let's move this as well using a projection line. So, we project it papunta dito sa harap. And now, we can measure this distance, which is measured from this corner. So, I can measure this one from this corner. Place a point. And now, I can connect the two like so. And I'm just looking at it, no? Hindi ba siya parallel dapat? Hindi nga parallel. So, tama naman kasi kasi kung totoong parallel to, dapat kung parallel sa dito, dapat magmumukhang parallel din siya dito, no? So, baka mali yung ko nito pag-copy. Kasi I think the problem intended this to be parallel, no? Anyway, okay lang yun. Let's just leave it at that. No? So, hindi siya parallel. Totally parallel. Ganyan siya. I think ang mali ko is dapat ginawa kong parallel to dito. If I were to correct this problem, no? Should be... Wala kung kaya kong gawin siya. Anyway, no point in correcting. So, okay lang yan. So, ito siya. Ito si oblique. Tapos, if you look at the incline should be seen as an edge view. It's inclined perpendicular to this, ano no, sa frontal reference plane. So, which means that I here should appear as an edge view. And this is actually that edge view. Ito siya. So, which means na, if I were to do the final answer, I should have something that looks like this. To, part of the final answer to. And this one to this one. Parang ganyan yung final answer ko. And I can, okay lang. Ganyan siya. Ito, wala to, no? Parang butas lang talaga siya if you look at it from this view. Butas lang siya. And you can see that this is now an oblique plane. Okay? Again, no need to label. Ganyan. And the last one is this one. Let's find this point. You can measure again, or another trick you can do is instead of measuring again, pwede naman i-project nyo na lang. Kasi again, rules of projection still apply. So pwede nyo project dyan para mahanap itong point na to. Tama? So you can find this point. Now I can measure this line right here. Before that, I'll have to measure it from the bottom, no? Pwedeng hindi. Ito kasi, this point right here aligns with this point. So, pwedeng project ko rin to. Papunta dyan. Okay? So, it makes it a lot easier, no? Instead of measuring multiple times, pwede naman i-project nyo lang siya ng ganyan. Tapos, ito, let's measure this distance. Ito, dito. And now, I can connect this point and this point. Oh, sorry. This point and this point. Like so. And let's just trim it. So, i-trim na natin. And now, I can find this plane right here. And let's call this plane as normal 3. Ito na actually yung last normal natin. So, normal 3. So, we have found normal 3. And now, ang need na lang natin is this point right here. So, if we try to pull this point papunta sa right side view using a parallel or perpendicular projection line, in this case, parallel to this line, no? So, pull natin siya pa ganyan. Where it meets, connect lang natin and measure that distance. It's this one. And now we can connect it like so. And we have found the oblique plane is here, no? Ito si oblique. This is the oblique plane. Kita siya. This is the oblique plane. Pagka, and again, try natin ulit yung imagination natin. Just to confirm. Ito siya. And if I pull this, appears here. Ito, pull this, it will appear here. It looks like a trapezoid, no? Which is exactly what we see here. Parang trapezoid siya. Okay? Yung oblique na yun. Okay? So, all of these planes, all of these lines, I mean, are part of the final answer, no? Tama? Wala namang butas or parang hollow area. So, pwedeng, I'll just delete this. Select ko lang everything. I'll just change this to the final answer layer. And I should have the final answer like this. Okay? Alright. So, not as easy as kanina, pero still relatively easy as compared to the, yung mga problems in the past or yung mga exams in the past. Okay? So, let's do one more. And again, if you have to go somewhere, pwede naman, you can exit out. Ako, i-continue ko lang yung lesson. I think it will take me around 10 minutes siguro para explain tong last part. Those in the Google Meet, pwede din kayong umalis if you want. I'll just continue this kasi I'm recording the session and para ma-upload ko siya as one video lang, no? Okay? So, last one. Ito, let's do the glass box. Ito, not too complicated din yung glass box, no? You can easily imagine it. Let's create a line from here. Ito yung farthest extent. So, ang gagawin natin is, let's just create a, either you create a 150 degree line. So, 150 degrees is just 180 minus 30. Or, make it parallel to this one. Make it parallel, like so. Parallel to this line. Ito naman, we make a vertical line where it intersects. That's one of our corners for our FRP. Tapos, ang gagawin natin is, from here, let's create another parallel line. Like so. Allow it to intersect with the vertical line here. Before that, hindi pala. Dapat kinonfirm pala natin no, that this is 30 degrees. Let's just create a vertical line like so. MEA for measure. This is 30. This is 30. So, naka-isometric view naman siya. Or kumbaga 30 degrees na to. Ito yung edge ng mismong ano. So, now that we have this, itong corner na to, what we can do is just connect this one and this one to complete the glass box. Okay? So, we have the glass box that looks like this. Tapos, gawa ulit tayo ng ano natin. Let's just create our HRP, our fold lines. Like this. Sige, ingat. Ito, move ko lang ulit para may space ako for my, thing like this. Now, gawa ulit ako ng an arbitrary point here. I'll use that as my marker for my, for my HRP. Tapos, what I'll do is, I'll create a vertical line pataas, horizontal line papunta dito, and just measure distances. So this one, in this case, different on all three dimensions, no? So this is a good complicated case wherein see length is different from the width is different from the height. Okay? So this one is this distance, ito. Tapos yung width niya is this large distance right here. Okay? So ito siya. Okay? So we can measure this one. And para hindi na tayo mag-copy ng distances for the width, pwedeng i-bring down na lang natin to. Like so. So yun na yung width for the FRP. And again, let's just make this equal yung distance away from the fold line. No? So we can create something like this. And to get the height is this distance. And the height is for the PRP. Okay? Or FRP I mean. Stream it like so. And project lang din natin siya papunta dun sa right side view or sa PRP view. Right? So, parang ganyan. Okay. Now that we have this, ang gagawin natin is basis for distances is this one. So, 2 views away. So, ito siya. Hindi naman super strict, no? Sometimes, kahit hindi nyo gawin siyang exactly the same, parang hindi nagpa-follow siya ng 2 views away, I'll allow it, no? Hindi ako super strict especially for multi-view projections. Okay? So, pwedeng ganyan. Tapos, let's just copy the length now, which is this one. This is the length along the x direction. Ito siya. And now, we can complete it like so. Okay? So, ayan yung glass box natin. Okay? So, here, let's find the normals first. Normal dito is this one, no? This is a normal. So, let's say normal 1 yan. Okay? So, this is the most obvious normal. Nakadikit sa glass box. So, I can just, if I find this point right here, itong particular point na to, then I can find the normal 1. Okay? So, measure lang natin to from this point to this point. Like so. Ito siya. And now, I can draw this one. And that should be normal 1. Tama? Now, let's imagine this one. If I try to pull this line, and I'll just draw a polyline. Ganyan lang, no? Ito. If I try to pull this one, pataas, it will actually be just this triangle. So, medyo buo na to. Okay na tong part na to. Then, let's look at the other side. Ito, which is, and lipat ko lang itong triangle na to, this is actually an inclined, no? It's an inclined that is, and let's label it as inclined. This is an inclined. Inclined, and it is edge view in the PRP. Tama? This inclined. And if you look at the inclined, pagka pinull up mo siya pataas, like so, it's actually this triangle as well. So actually, buo na tong top view natin. So we can make this, every line here is part of the final answer. So I can just shift it to the final answer like so. So i-move ko lang to kasi mukhang magagamit ko to later on. Alright? So yan yung HRP ko. This is N1, this is I, and this is the oblique. The oblique is actually here, no? Next is, I'll project this point right here. Project ko lang dito para hindi ko na i-measure, no? Project ko na lang kasi I know it's the same point as this one. So from here, I can just connect this point papunta dun sa bottom corner. So I can connect this bottom corner going there. Now I can measure distances. This is a vertical line and which has a length of this one. So pwedeng vertical line going downwards and ang length niya, distance is this one, and I can trim it down. And I know this is this distance right here. So pwede ko siyang i-measure dyan and connect it here. Or another way, para hindi ko na kailangan i-measure, I know this one is parallel to this line. So since I know that this is parallel, then it must mean, kasi all parallel lines or lines that are truly parallel will always appear parallel in all views. So pwede actually ang gawin ko is just make a parallel like so. And you can make shortcuts like that, no? That will increase your productivity or your parang workflow or pace. Okay? Now, ang need na lang natin is, we have two, yung incline, tingnan natin kung ano yung itsura ng incline. If I move this incline here again, like so. Oops. May konting mali pala dito. Anyway, okay lang yan. So, if I move this incline here, ang movement niya, naligaw pala tong two lines ito. Okay lang yan. If I move this incline right here, if I move it upwards, or sorry, if I move it to the front view, it will look like a parang right triangle lang siya. So, this right triangle here is this one. Parang ganyan. This incline. This is I. Ito si I. And this one is a normal, no? So, let's just call this as normal 2. Actually, ito I1 to. Let's call this I1 kasi we have another inclined here, no? This is I2. And I2 is edge view sa top view, which is actually this one, no? Itong line na to, this is I2 shown in its edge view. Okay? Right? So, si I2, let's try to imagine it. Ito si I2, no? Pagka ginalaw natin si I2, from here, move it to forward, mumukha siyang right triangle ulit. And ito siya yung upper half ng isang triangle, no? So, ito siya. So, complete na actually ito. Itong front view din natin. And, if you notice, all lines here as well are part of the final answer. So, pwedeng lipat lang natin lahat sa final answer. Okay? So, okay tayo so far dito. And lastly, ito naman sa view na to, what we do is, ang kailangan lang is, we can, again, just project, no? We can just project this one. Papunta dyan. Or, pwede naman copy nyo yung distance if you want. Then, I'll just select this and place it here. And now, we can have, kasi see, this one is I2. This one is I1 that is in its edge view. So, complete na actually dito. Pero, merong isang dito, no? Most students have or miss this step. So, I'll just change this to the final answer first. So, ito siya. This is correct naman siya. This is the correct answer for this particular view sa harap. Pero, the missing piece is that the hidden lines, no? Kasi, the oblique plane dito, itong oblique na to, so let's label this as the oblique plane, no? Yung oblique natin is, kita siya sa taas, dito. Kita din siya sa harap. Pero bakit hindi litaw siya dito? Okay? So kahit yung plane ay nasa likod, dapat in a way kita pa rin siya. Okay? Or kaya pa rin natin ma-determine. And the way we determine it is through the use uh, of a hidden line. Okay? So, if you try to do yung correct visibility rule natin, it will still apply, no? Parang mangyayari pa rin is you will still arrive at the same conclusion na mangyayari is that line will be hidden because of if you try to create the projection lines. Pero without even creating projection lines, kayang-kaya natin ano to, no? Just by observing, kasi ito nasa likod to or nasa left side kasi siya. So which is technically the back side when you're looking at it from the right side view, no? So meaning, itong oblique plane kasi na to, and let's just trace it. Gawa tayo ng cyan. Tingnan natin kung anong itsura niya. This is the oblique plane. If we move it forward, papunta dyan, this one, papunta dyan, move it out, not forward, to the right, we will observe na it looks like a right triangle, no? Parang ganyan. So, ang kulang lang na line actually is this line right here. Ito. This line. But, this line should be a hidden line kasi nasa likod siya eh. Okay? So, we make it a hidden line and let's just change the line type. And notice how continuous lang ang meron, no? So, again, kailangan natin pumunta sa L type and kailangan ko ata ano, no? Wait lang ah. I need to change my view. Baka hindi nyo makita display. You do L type. Kita ba yung ano? Box? Dialog box? Then just load. Tapos pili lang tayo ng hidden line. I personally always like to use JIS, no? 0.75 is good. Press OK. Tapos gagawin ko is I change this through JIS. And you can see it already shows the hidden line. Okay? So now, that is the correct final answer. Yung previous problems natin, there's no need for a hidden line, no? Kasi wala namang hidden line sa mga likod na features. Ito, walang hidden line. Ito, wala ding hidden line. But this one has a hidden line. So that's why it has this. And usually, yun yung common mistake ng mga students, no? They always forget the hidden lines sa backside or sa yung sides that are not visible. An argument can be made na hindi ba posible na may hidden features din siya sa likod na hindi lang kita? Pwede din naman, no? And in fact, if you're brave enough, pwede naman mag-imagine kayo na merong mga features dyan. Pero, kumbaga, para pinahirapan nyo lang sarili nyo if you try to put features dito sa likod na hindi natin kita. Okay? So, always aim for the simplest na imagination. That's my number one tip. Para mas madali nyo ma-generate yung object nyo or yung multiview projection, or pagbaliktad from multiview projection, madali din ma-generate yung isometric view. And with that, we can end today's lesson. Tomorrow, we'll do pabaliktad naman mula multiview, gagawin natin yung isometric, and magta-try na rin tayo ng more difficult problems, no? Merong sample problems akong ibibigay. I'll send a practice sheet. CAD lang tayo. Okay? So, ito, stop ko na yung recording, no? Let's end here. And for those na nasa Google Meet pa, thank you for staying. And dito sa F2F10, no? For those who stay, thank you din. I'll see you tomorrow. Again, unless merong heavy rains bukas, kasi I think tama ba magla-landfall ata tonight yung bagyo. So may chance na mag-a-announce na later, no, na walang pasok. So pagka ganon, we can continue this arrangement, no, wherein ano pa rin tayo, kumbaga online, hybrid tayo kumbaga. Okay?